Lined up for you all the top stories, including what happened today at the Law Society of Kenya Council annual general meeting. That's one of our top stories tonight. But I'd like you to take a look at the Super Bowl today, because if you recall, we began with graft diaries and we've had all of these stories for you. Now, of course, another place where corruption is rife, and we know this, everybody has had an experience with it, is in the land sector. This quote that you see on our Super Bowl here is from a commissioner at the National Lands Commission. It's from a letter that he wrote to the president, detailing what is happening within the National Land Commission and expressing his concerns with the war on graft within the land sector. Take a look at this statement. Our country is worse off now than ever before as far as public land administration, public and private land administration is concerned. How concerned was he? Why is he still concerned? This letter was written just 2 months ago. We will be having that discussion right here in studio with this commissioner. It's called Abdikadir Halif, and he'll be joining us to talk about what's happening within the land sector. How is it that land can be allocated twice? What are some of those issues bedeviling the land sector? We'll also be talking about the standoff between the National Land Commission and the Ministry of Lands. How to resolve that, what you can do as well. Graft Diaries continues today with a discussion on land reforms that is coming up in the bulletin tonight, as well as these are the top stories we have prepared for you today. Baser instincts rule as learned friends disrupt LSK AGM.
Na tuwache fitina na siasa duni ya kugombana hapa na mambo ya utuzi.
The rift between the Rutos. Governor accuses deputy president of undermining him.
Kwa hivyo mambo ya ufisadi tunataka kuambia rais kwamba angalia hapo kando yako.
Deal with the corrupt in your administration, Raila tells Guru.
Patients who were on treatment schedule before the machine broke down will therefore resume treatment on 23rd March 2015.
And grounded cancer equipment now replaced at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Thanks for joining us on the program tonight. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Awiti. Let's start today with chaos that marred the Law Society of Kenya's annual general meeting after a section of members disagreed with the society's president Eric Mutua over rules of procedure at the meeting. The Okoa LSK team, led by lawyer Edwin Sifuna, wanted the controversy surrounding construction of the International Arbitration and Convention Center be put at the top of the agenda. Mutua was forced to adjourn the meeting indefinitely after the meeting became unruly. However, the Okoa LSK team resolved to continue with the meeting. But as Patrick Amimo reports, the LSK Council says all resolutions agreed by the rival group are null and void.
The Learned Friends annual general meeting came at a time when a section of members have expressed reservations over the construction of an arbitration and convention center in Nairobi South Sea. This gathering provided a perfect opportunity for the Okoa LSK team to push their agenda.
That the Chief Executive Officer, Secretary of Law Society of Kenya, be sent on compulsory leave.
They are lawyers. There are two operational words here. Shall, and then as the member, the council deems fit, that is the may. That is what it means.
The meeting ran into disarray when the chairman insisted on conducting the meeting according to the society's rules of procedure.
Secretary, go and read just go and read it. That is number 4. Just have a seat. Let me say this.
Attempts by some of the senior council present to restore order and decorum fell on deaf ears.
We cannot be shouting the way we are shouting. Let us have some consultation with them and we'll come back.
In the ensuing confusion, lawyer Jacqueline Manani attempted to grab a microphone from council member Jennifer Shamala. The section of lawyers moved to the high table, Mutua and his team were practically under siege. With the meeting turned into a shouting match, the LSK chairman abruptly called off the meeting after an hour and a half of tough wars. But the Okoa LSK team vowed to convene their own meeting and continue with their agenda, drawing further confusion on legal implications.
The decision by the chairman to adjourn this meeting to be declared null and void for the purposes of this particular meeting.
The Council of the Law Society is not here. All I'm asking you, are we satisfied that what we are undertaking right now is legitimate?
There is no vice president here. So the legal implications, let us not turn ourselves into politicians and MCAs. Let us follow the law.
We do not have sufficient rules of engagement as to how we should conduct this meeting decently.
You are lawyers. You know that you are here by right. So nobody should scare you that we are perpetuating an illegality. The illegality has worked out.
Holding the meeting.
Arthur Nyakundi was picked to chair the session. Members present voted by acclamation to abandon construction of the arbitration center despite spirited efforts by lawyer Charles Kanjama to defend the project.
The price of City Hall, inclusive of land, is 1.8 billion shillings. City Hall, in town, right in town. Union Towers was sold at 800 million in the city center. Ours is at right inside there.
The building cost is not as she has claimed, the cost per square meter. They have used wrong assumptions. Some of them are so glaring when you look at this report that to me I weep.
Kanjama also differed with the Okoa LSK team on the motion to send Apollo Mboya on compulsory leave. Again, confusion reigned over the matter, with Kanjama demanding to be given opportunity to express his views. After a 20-minute standoff, a vote by acclamation to send Apollo Mboya on leave carried the day. But the LSK Council later addressed the media, where they sensationally claimed a section of lawyers had been paid 20 million shillings by a cabinet secretary in the office of the president to disrupt the meeting.
We are interviewing one of the lawyers who has given this information with a view to obtaining an affidavit since this lawyer was in that meeting when that was happening. One, Mr. Asa Nyakundi, purported to chair a meeting of the amorphous entity known as Okoa LSK. Any purported motions passed in that meeting as chaired by Mr. Nyakundi are therefore null and void.
Those are some of the amazing and dramatic scenes witnessed during the LSK annual general meeting. Whether resolutions arrived at after the LSK Council had called off the meeting will be legally binding or not is subject to legal interpretation. Patrick Amiwo, KTN, Nairobi.
Right, Meshach Yebei is said to be Deputy President William Ruto's key witness in his case at the International Criminal Court was today laid to rest 3 months after his disappearance. As Mercy Kandia reports, it was an emotional send-off attended by family, friends and human rights officials who are now demanding for the arrest of his killers.
Still, peace be still,
a song Yebei's kin say would give them peace during the dreadful 3-month search of the late Meshach Yebei. A village gathered with the family to pay their last respect.
No one really wants to say goodbye, so we will wish you eternal peace.
Tumekubali kwamba amelala. Tumeuliza maswali, kwa nini, nani alimuua na ni kwa nini, as a family. Lakini jibu hilo tunauliza Mungu, hatujauliza binadamu yeyote yule.
Wacha itoshe. The blood of Meshach, wacha itoshe.
His decomposing body was recently discovered at Man-Eaters Park in Voi by a forest ranger after Yebei disappeared on the 28th December last year from his Kaptebe village in Uasin Gishu County. During the emotional send-off, family members led the onslaught in giving 40 days to the alleged killers, assuring that action will be taken and the truth will be known on who murdered their kin.
Wenye kuua siku 40 tutawajia wenye kupeleka mwili mpaka Sabo, na hata siku nyingine 40 mtakawaja mwili.
The police should arrest the killers of Meshach Yebei in the next 1 week. and arraign them in court. They are all known. There is overwhelming evidence. There are motives. There are many witnesses to sustain such charges.
The deputy president, who also hails from the same village through his lead counsel in his ICC case, Karim Khan, had made it public that Yebei was their defense critical witness.
By the time Meshach alifariki, hakukuwa prosecution witness na hakukuwa defense witness. Get it clear.
Human rights activists at the burial found fault in the Special Crimes Unit, wanting instead an independent team to handle the investigations.
Na wale watu waliua Meshach, number one, they were afraid that Meshach was planning to go to ICC and become a witness on a possible charge of witness bribery and interference. And they are all known. They all worked with Meshach and they knew what they had done together. We have given out the names to the police. Some of them are neighbors, others are leaders, while some of them are security agents from the flying school.
The Yebei family had identified another body in January in Kapsabet, but DNA results indicated that it was not Yebei's but that of a Matatu tout, Yusuf Hussein. Yebei leaves behind a wife and 2 children. 3 months later, and the Yebei family finally gets to bury their kin, but it has been one ceremony that has brought with it many questions that the Yebei family want answers to. Marcy Kandiye, KTN, Kaptebe Village, Uasin Gishu County.
Court leader Raila Odinga has challenged the president to stop paying lip service to the war on corruption and act on corrupt individuals. Raila says corruption has held the country hostage and the Jubilee administration must show willingness to deal with the vice. The court leader was speaking in Siaya County at the burial of the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga's speechwriter Barack Odera.
If the fish is rotting, or if you want to know a fish is rotten, just look at the head. If the head is fresh, the whole fish is fresh. But if the head is rotten, the whole fish is rotten. So corruption must be fought starting from above. The whole system in Kenya is corrupt.
Sisi tunaenda kupinga ufisadi kabisa, kwa sababu bila ufisadi tunaweza kuwa na maendeleo. Bila ufisadi tunaweza kuwa na umoja wa watu wa Kenya. Bila ufisadi tutaweza kuendelea na ugatuzi hapa chini, hapa mashinani.
Sasa mpaka sisi tufuate mwizi mpaka tupate wizi. Kwa hivyo mambo ya ufisadi tunataka kuambia rais kwamba angalia hapo kando yako. Macho kiko goni chako. Kwa hivyo mfano angalia mbali. Ukisema wewe utaongoza kwa vitendo, sema na kutenda, tenda manake mzingiro na wajambazi na wezi wote.
Let's move to matters of health that have hit the headlines this past week. Cancer patients seeking treatment at the Kenyatta National Hospital will resume radiotherapy treatment on Monday. The hospital CEO has confirmed. But it may not be a sigh of relief for the patients just yet, considering only one of the machines is functional. Despite this, the Kenyatta National Hospital management insists things will run smoothly. But will they? KTN's Timothy Otieno reports.
It's been a week of frustration for cancer patients in the country following the failure and shutdown of 2 radiotherapy equipments at Kenyatta National Hospital on Tuesday. But today, management said things will be back to normal come Monday.
Patients who were on treatment schedule before the machine broke down will therefore resume treatment on 23rd March 2015.
The facility that houses the only radiotherapy equipments in a public health institution in the country has seen services at the hospital paralyzed as patients have gone days without the much-needed therapy sessions. But the CEO insists other treatments on cancer have not been affected.
The challenge we are experiencing is not a total shutdown of the cancer treatment as it has been painted, because the cancer treatment services are ongoing at KNH. As such, we have brachytherapy, which is going on. We have chemotherapy, which is going on. We have nuclear medicine, which is going on, and cancer diagnosis and surgery.
The two machines each broke down on the 9th of March, one due to a power surge and the other because of mechanical issues, leaving cancer patients who are on session stranded. Kenyatta Hospital receives 156 patients for radiotherapy on a daily basis, and 1,300 cancer patients are on a waiting list, a list that extends to up to 3 years in wait. But another equipment has been purchased. The CEO insisted that there were no unpaid debts to Kenya Revenue Authority that had slowed the release of the equipment.
We had to apply to the ministry to process the payment. We had to avail the documents up to and including the invoices, which according to me, it has been done within the period that was done, and now the license has been issued.
Radiotherapy at the Kenyatta Hospital costs 500 shillings per session, while the same session costs between 3,000 shillings and 12,000 at a private facility, a cost that may be too high for the ordinary Kenyan. Come Monday, sessions at the Kenyatta National Hospital would have been suspended for nearly 10 days, a period that may be the difference between life and death for some of these patients.
This institution, we intend to have 4 linear accelerators in the future. But of course, we have received the government support, as I've just mentioned. We already have one.
Timothy Otieno, KTN.
It wasn't, however, only depressing news for cancer patients today, as a group of 50 women from the Nyeri Hospice received wigs from a well-wisher. The high-end wigs brought about a much-needed sense of good cheer at the hospice for female cancer patients who have lost their hair during cancer treatment. Carol Nderi shared the afternoon with the women at the hospice and brings us the following story.
They say one of the hallmarks of beauty for any woman is her hair, and losing one's crown to chemotherapy is often distressing for women undergoing cancer treatment. It is something that each of these women at the Nyeri Hospice is only too familiar with. The women are in different stages of cancer treatment, and hair loss is just one of the many unpleasant side effects they have to brave and endure. Many forced to tie headscarves and wraps.
When you tell a lady that the hair will fall off, they feel very discouraged. In fact, we've had some who refused to go through the treatment.
Today, however, was a happy day for the 50 women. Brand new wigs of various colors, shapes and sizes were theirs at no cost. It was all smiles on a sunny Saturday afternoon.
Feeling good. I'm just about to get a wig and I'll look good and wonderful.
Nilikuwa naogopa. Nilikuwa nasikia hata hiyo chemotherapy ndio inafanya mtu akufe hata kama nilikubali kutolewa hii. Nilikuwa naogopa. Lakini as for now niko sawa sana.
The well-wisher, a fellow woman who understands the plight of cancer patients, offered the wigs for free. The wigs from Mikore Hair International cost between 3,000 to 5,000 shillings. Marianne Wangare, whose hometown is Nyeri but has lived in Germany and America, imports the wigs from America. She decided to give her support in the way she understands best. Hair matters.
We believe that the greatest gift is love. So that's why we decided that we'll be giving wigs to the unprivileged women and children. And that's why we call the hospice, and that's why we are here.
The women shared their experiences. Some talked of the stigma they had to face, and others told of how they were kicked out of their homes by their partners. Others, like Rosemary Wanjogo, said husbands play an important role in understanding the changes in their wives' bodies, for it was Rosemary's husband who discovered the lump on his wife's breast.
Hii kansa nilijua through my husband, bwana yangu. Ndiye alisikia hiyo kitu ikiwa kwa matiti, na akaniambia niende kwa daktari. Wakati wa romance wanaume wa take care hata kuangalia the bodies of their wives. Yeah.
Another cancer survivor, Elizabeth Njeri, spoke of how she had once hit rock bottom when a breast cancer diagnosis was made. She has since been declared cancer-free and spends her time encouraging fellow women.
I said, I'm Elizabeth Jerry, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And from that day, I've never kept quiet. So I usually push for the women and I usually preach that gospel.
There's been a ray of hope for the many women at the Nyeri hospice who've received wigs and have called out on other Kenyans to offer their support in whichever way to cancer patients. Carol Derry, KTN at the Nyeri hospice. Nyeri.
What good news for those women there going through a tough time in their lives, but it is indeed very heartwarming to see the smiles on their faces. Right, let's stick with some interesting news as well. Now, it is the dream of almost every Kenyan to own a home, but the high cost of houses has locked out many from living this dream. A young group of professionals here in Nairobi is keen on delivering affordable properties by teaming up to fundraise and sell off houses at pocket-friendly rates. KTN's Abby Agina met up with the group and brings us their story.
Ordinarily, a good chunk of men between the ages of 25 to 30 ought to be on course in making a name in their career, or better still, be doing not so bad in whatever business they are in. At this age, one would have cleared their education and settled in a particular career. Most would be living in a decent house, paying rent religiously as they work out ways of one day transitioning to becoming homeowners. But for a few, the story is different. Meet Hitler Olwenge, an aviator at the airport. He and his partners have barely hit 32 years and they are defying the odds.
About 11 of us, then we decided to invest some funds, just a little bit of money, and over time that money has grown threefold. And again, having met the proprietor of Moke, we decided, okay, why don't we go for these apartments?
The returns from the house, we are going now to use it to buy more units so that we can invest for our future, as early as now. Because if we decide to wait, we can end up waiting and missing some nice opportunities like these ones.
Olwenge, the brains behind the investment group dubbed Relative Merchants, rallied his friends to start investing in property with very little capital.
At the end of the day, we get some property here and there, and that's what we decided with the group.
These are some of the just finished housing units on Mombasa Road at Lukenya Hills, which they have invested in.
So, for example, we have about 4 groups now who have come, and they have booked to purchase blocks of apartments strictly for investment.
Surprisingly, these houses are not your typical highly priced apartments and bungalows. So far, they have managed to put up 27 bungalows and 27 more are coming up. Their entry into the real estate market was anchored on the growing demand for housing within the urban areas.
You look at the number of youth in this particular country, they constitute to about 60 to 70%. They are the ones who in the next few years to come are going to actually run the economy. And the energy they kind of have, they are very vibrant, you know very well. So the future of the real estate is the in thing, because you look at even the youth themselves, none of them is really connecting to their rural folks at all. They are urbanized.
The growing number of young professionals teaming up to raise capital to undertake investments is fast seeing a number of them joining the Millionaires Group. Although there are still gaps in accessing funding for youths to invest, for this group, their story is all about doing the seemingly impossible and being ready to take risks. Abby Agina, KTN Weekend Prime.
Kenya's former President Daniel Arap Moi says the government is to blame for the poor performance of public primary schools. He said the schools lack qualified teachers and inspectors to monitor learning progress, especially in rural areas. Speaking during the prize-giving ceremony of Moi High School, Kabarak, Moi appealed to Kenyans to ensure that all children are given equal opportunities. He expressed optimism that ranking of schools would soon be resumed, noting that competition can never be a bad thing, even for the weak schools.
Rugut Space Chepto Kaya Kimurkor Physics. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We don't know.
And I urge the government to look into that, into the children in the rural areas. Those in towns do better because teachers are around there. Remote areas, teachers are not that attracted to go there. And I think government should help teachers to add the money they use there, because they cannot manage to feed themselves and feed their families when they are in drier areas and far away from the center.
Let's give you some politics news now. The rift between two of Rift Valley's top politicians, William Ruto and Isaac Ruto, is widening. Governor Ruto openly declared today that the deputy president is using other politicians, especially members of parliament, to undermine him. The two leaders talked at each other in two different functions, merely 30 kilometers apart. Sam Agina has more.
President Kenyatta, number 1, 2017. Wewe number 1, 2022, na Jubilee tunaendelea pamoja. Hakuna wasiwasi. Wengine wanasema wanataka urais, na juzi mliwapatia kiti ya gavana, wameanza kuchoka. Na mimi ningeuliza kama wananchi kwa jumla, hiyo jambo nasema ikemewe, kwa sababu hatutaki watu wakuturudisha katika ukoloni. Ama mngetaka turudi katika ukoloni?
Excellency, we are behind you 100%. These are the leaders from Bomet County. Na tunasema kama kuna mwingine mwenye anataka kusema maneno mingine yenye ni tofauti na yetu, sisi hatukubali. Sisi hatukubali kabisa. Hivi Januari anala Ruto mpaka afike mahali tunataka afike.
Yeye ndiye amekuwa akihujumu mambo ya ukatuzi kwa miaka miwili. Yeye mwenyewe, hapana mtu mwingine, yeye hapana picha sasa.
Kama wewe umepatiwa kiti na mwananchi, tumia hiyo kiti huko naye. Fanya kazi wananchi waone. Pana kuleta itifirani na mambo ya kuzungusha fitina na mambo bure.
Hapa nataka mambo ya kuja kutudanganya hapa na kuchezea wabunge wetu. Wabunge anaendelea kudanganya wabunge huko. Alafu akija nyumbani wanasema maneno ya upuzi. Leo wametutusi the whole morning. Na yeye anakaa hapo.
Tunataka kubadilisha Kenya hii, na Kenya hii haiwezi kubadilishwa na giza. Lazima tufanye mpango, lazima tushirikiane, viongozi wote tufanye kazi kwa pamoja, na tuache fitina na siasa duni ya kugombana hapa na mambo ya upuzi ambayo haiwezi kusaidia mtu.
All right. Politics there, and people talking at each other. Well, something we've been talking about for quite some time now is graft, is corruption, and how it has infiltrated several spheres of our society. Today we're focusing on land matters, and we have a National Lands Commissioner who is with us today. Any of your questions and comments for him are welcome. Please make sure you use our Twitter handle at KTN Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, and you can also SMS us on 22155. George Musamali, you say please ask him what the National Land Commission is doing about the grabbed vet labs land. We also have several more of your questions and your feedback. Elijah M, you say, does he have any proposals on adverse possession issues, since most leases are expiring and becoming targets for land cartels? We'll be speaking about that and much more after the break. Do stay with us. where are we with land issues in the country? That is what we are discussing right now on The Point of News. Land reform, something that is definitely at the heart of most Kenyans, land being one of those factors of production and people associating with having made it and being successful in life. The stories abound. Land grabbing here, land grabbing there. Today we have National Land Commissioner Abdul Kadir Halif, who joins us today. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start with just some contents of the letter that you wrote to the President, expressing your frustrations and your sentiments with what's going on in the country. Now, if we can get a shot of that, that's on our super wall today. This is what you said. You said, our country is worse off now than ever before as far as matters of general and public land administration is concerned. Why do you say that?
First of all, I want to make a quick correction. I did not write the letter to the President. I wrote it to the Cabinet Secretary and to the Chairman of the National Land Commission. And that's what I said exactly in that letter, and I still stand by what I said about 2 months ago. As you know, the process of land administration must ideally start with the county government. It used to start with the county councils and the municipal councils and the city councils the way it has been before. And the reason is because all allocatable land, that's land, public land available for allocation, ideally belongs to the local authorities, in this case the county governments. And because of the problems we have had over the years of land grabbing and corruption in the land sector, the Constitution now mandates the National Land Commission to administer land on behalf of both the county and the national government. That having been said, why I said it is worse off now is because that's not really happening. It is still the Ministry of Lands, in this case Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, that is doing exactly that, land administration, and everything to do with land, in the complete exclusion of both the county governments and the National Land Commission, which is a constitutional commission mandated with the administration of public land. So why it is worse off is because there is confusion in the land sector on who is to do what, where the county government's role begins, what the National Land Commission is supposed to do, and what is the ministry's final mandate will be as far as all of that is concerned. So right now it's all concentrated. Actually, we are going in the opposite direction of devolution. Everywhere else in government, we are devolving and taking down mandates and everything to the missionary or to the counties, as it were. But for the land sector, the opposite is actually happening. So we are worse off now than we were before.
Why the confusion, though? Isn't this something that is clearly stated? Like you mentioned, the mandate of the National Land Commission, the mandate of who does what. Why do we still have this confusion? Is it somebody meddling in another's affairs? Is that what's happening?
I think it is what you said finally, that someone is meddling or people are misinterpreting what the law said. It is true that it is very clear. It is all in law. It is in the Constitution first, and it is all in the enabling legislation. And it is very clear. And I have no idea why the confusion should be there. Actually, when the National Land Commission first was sworn in, when the commissioners were sworn in February of 2013, the ministry at that time welcomed us and handed over the mandates that are by law belonging to the commission to us, the personnel, the facilities, the resources, everything was done. But 1 year down the line, and that was last year, 2014, in February 2014, they went the opposite direction and completely reversed the entire process again. And an argument that was never before was actually brought up, and it was all interpretation of the law. What is public land? What is the definition of public land? And which level of government it is vested in, whether it is the national government or the county government. Although all those are also in law and in the Constitution, but deliberately, and the lawyers are very clever in the use of the words and the interpretation of those. It was said that this is private, so it's none of your business. This is community, so you cannot touch it. This is public, and public means government. And the whole thing was reversed and confusion created. Another source of confusion is some legislation that were used before the new constitution have not been repealed as new ones came in. So there is that lacuna also, that someone has a choice to use either this or that. And some of them deliberately not repealed, others in the process of repealing but has never reached there, others in the process of amendment but has been sat on, and the ones that are supposed to be current and according to the Constitution have been totally ignored.
Let's talk about some of these issues and the nitty-gritties that everybody experiences when they're dealing with land. And this is double allocation of land. You have fake titles. You have several titles. What's it going to take to have a title be valid, be valuable, mean something in this country? We thought we were headed in the right direction, and then we've started to see stories that tell us that maybe we're going, as you say, in the reverse direction. Langata land was the big one. Now we hear of this land on State House. Apparently somebody's supposed to have died and they quickly went and took over the land. You know, the stories we hear of land, it's always to do with double allocation and fake titles. What is the origin of all of this?
Fake titles, if we were to address that matter first, originates from even Ardhi House itself. It can originate from the street. There are forgers sitting somewhere in the big cities, and especially in Nairobi, as they say in River Road. I have never seen one myself, but that's what they say, who are experts in the manufacturing of fake documents. Somehow they get those documents recorded in the government registries. Although they might have been done irregularly, they end up getting recorded. So, but even then, that could even mean recording of an existing title already. Right. The only difference being that this one now has a different number. So the confusion came because the process of land allocation has been completely ignored. It was very clear, even in the old legislation, how things used to be done. It always started from the local authorities. And government or the Minister of Land, and particularly the Commission of Land at that time, used to administer public land on behalf of the local authorities. In the place of the former Commission of Land is now the National Land Commission, which is still mandated to administer public land on behalf of both the national and the county governments. Yeah. So when you see a question of double allocation, it is because one process of allocation was followed properly through the right channels, and therefore gets into the record, having had a paper trail throughout the entire system, and another one gets a shortcut from the street or even from Ardhi House itself somewhere, done by officers or people who have been compromised and find themselves in the records at the same time. So they could be two titles, two files, two numbers, two title numbers in the same registry for the same piece of land. It was believed, though, that shutting down of the registry last year was meant to clean up these irregularities and just sort out the matters there. Do you believe that that was effective? I don't think so. If it was effective, we would not be having the kind of problems that we have had. We would not have had Langata, we would not have had State House, and we would not have had Karen. So that, and there are many, many other cases throughout the country, in the coast, in the Rift Valley, in the north, everywhere you go. And the mandate of the National Land Commission is to review grants and dispositions of all those. And so we are unable even to cope with the number of cases that we see of that kind of double allocation or fake allocations or files missing. And a lot of files are still missing. As a matter of fact, this past week we have seen trucks after trucks of files being transported out of the building. I don't know where they are being taken, but it is done in broad daylight. And we have no idea where they are being taken, and nobody is consulting the Commission even on that line. What can the Commission do? Sometimes Nothing. It feels like you're helpless. We are absolutely helpless. We can only go to court, and that's where we are. Yeah, and that's where we are at the moment. Okay, so we won't get into that. I'd like your thoughts on the title deeds that were issued by the President and his deputy last year to the residents at the coast. There was a lot of politics around that, but could you just give us the position, or rather your position as a commissioner, on whether that was helpful in terms of sorting out the land issues at the coast? Was it just another can of worms? First of all, it is completely in order for the President of the Republic of Kenya to issue title deeds to the people. What we witnessed about 2 years ago in the year 2013 in the Coast Province, where thousands of titles were issued. This is a process that I have absolutely no problem with, myself, and the Commission actually has no problem with, because They were the processes that were going on even before the commission came, even before the new constitution came, even before the county governments were in place. So all they were doing was finalizing those and giving the people titles that were either just sitting in the registries, not having been corrected, or finalizing the few that were in the pipeline. And the president was completely in order in giving out this. Those are also, we need to tell the country that very clearly, those are freehold titles. It's all titles either in adjudication areas or in settlement schemes. It's not part of the public land that are being administered, or should ideally be administered by the National Land Commission together with the county government. Could it have been done differently? Absolutely. And the county government should have been involved. Because the communities who elected that county government are the ones that are being served.
Right.
And are there problems? Are there problems that have emanated out of that process? Yes. And the reason is because they have been done in great hurry and with little consultation. So things like people who have died and inheritances, the old names still remain. Acreages are wrong. Some disputes still remain. Some of the complaints that should have been done, taken care of, were not done. So when you rush the system, you will come up with a lot of problems. But generally, that is the way we should go. But we should have had more consultations with both the county governments and with the National Land Commission. Let's talk about the commission for a moment. Do you have faith in the commission in which you sit, in the leadership of the commission, towards getting us somewhere in resolving the land issues? Obviously, this is not something that can happen overnight. This is definitely a long-term process rather than an event. But are you confident of the work that the commission does, of the leadership of it? Well, the only problem I stated in my letter was, if you read it, all of it, actually, most of it was addressed to the cabinet secretary. And the only frustration I had, which I expressed personally in that letter, was the fact that our leadership was not doing enough to confront the situation. Having faith, yes, absolutely. I'm sure we can still do a lot. As the first set of commissioners, as the pioneers in this, we might not go very far. But we are building the institution to make sure that the next commission will be able to take off where we left. Right now, our main interest is to make sure that the institution survives, that it does not succumb. We do as much as we can under very difficult circumstances, and we hope that we will be able to make a difference in the time that is left. We're only two years into our term. We have 4 more years left, and we're waiting for a change of heart in the part of the ministry and the rest of government to help us through the process. And we hope that the people of Kenya will support us in the process.
How much would you say the standoff between the National Land Commission and the Ministry of Lands, how much would you say that has affected the work of the National Land Commission? Like you say, you have a time frame done 2 years. How much do you think you've spent in solving the squabbles, the back and forth between who does what? And we'll get to defining that, because I think I'd like that to be one of the last messages that we give to the Kenyan people, the positive side in knowing what that is. But how much do you think that has affected the work that you do? And a lot. Yeah. I mean, we have been unable to do as much as we had really wanted to do as far as our strategic plan is concerned. We should have been way ahead by now. But because of these impediments and the standoff we have with the ministry, we have been unable to do much. But let me also add this very quickly. The ministry itself has been unable to do any of the things that they wanted to do either, because it is collaboration between the two of us that will make the country move forward. One arm not doing its part, the other arm is completely disabled. So it is important for all of us to come together, and including the county government, whose land it is that we are managing anyway. The three of us have to work together to move this country forward. That's when people will get titles. That's when we can clean up records. That's when we can digitize and do everything. But each one of us trying to act on their own will fail. So let's talk about then the land, who manages what land. We have the county government, obviously, now, and you talked about devolution happening in all of the sectors except in the land sector. Let's just clear that up, because that will always be a matter that is highly misunderstood.
First of all, it is very clear in the Constitution. Article 62, 63, and 64 defines what is public land and what is community land and what is private land. And most of that land that is allocatable actually belongs to the county government. Every piece of land sits in some county somewhere in this republic. There is no place that is not sitting in one county. And the Constitution, in the sections, on the articles that I have just quoted, says clearly, very clearly, the categories of land defines what belongs to the national government, what belongs to the county governments, what is private, and what is public, and what is community. There is no allocatable land that belongs to the national government. National government is supposed to be taking care of, or at least having mandates over, their mandates spread over the territorial waters, the international boundaries, and the water bodies, and national parks, and the game reserves, and the game parks, and the forests, and all other public institutions like education and defense and all this. That is what belongs to the national government. And which is part arm of the national government? Not the Ministry of Lands, but the national, the management body in which those institutions are vested. Like, for example, Kenya Forest Service will be
forests. Absolutely.
Kenya Wildlife Service will be
game
this.
parks, yes.
But the Ministry of Defense will be the Ministry of Education will be this. Those are the arms of the national government we are talking. People make confusion. They create confusion by saying whenever there is a reference to the national government, you are talking about the Ministry of Lands. It's not. The rest of the land that is allocatable, that is available for allocation, for which will then change status from public to private, belongs to the county governments, and the National Land Commission is the agent for them.
Okay, very good to clear that one up, because it constantly gets confused. What about the county governors and the county government as a whole? What support do you think they're receiving from the national government in terms of just sorting out these matters?
I think they have been totally ignored. You know, in the past, when the former Commissioner of Lands used to administer land on behalf of the local authorities, he always referred
to the local authorities
in which those lands are invested. That they are doing it on behalf of the county council of Machakos or Mombasa or whatever. Now that is not even happening. It says the government of Kenya gives you this. So there is no reference to the county government. There is no reference to their manager, which is the National Land Commission. So things are just being done totally by the ministry. And they prepare the leases and they register it at the same time. That has never happened in this country before. Actually, it doesn't happen anywhere else in the world, where one person executes the leases and also registers it and allocates it at the same time. All done by one person under one roof. I don't think that is the way to go.
As we conclude, which way forward?
The way forward is to stick to what the law says. The law is very clear in what it is said. A lot of people are trying to change even those laws to make it suitable for the ministry to continue doing what it is doing now. Not even what it used to do before. What it's trying to do now, so that, I don't know, for whatever reason. I think the way to go is for the county governments to come out much more strongly, for everybody to realize that that piece of public land is vested in those counties, and the process of administration be left to the National Land Commission. The ministry obviously has a role to play right now, although that's also contested, but right now they are able to register the land, and they can keep that as a recorder of the rights and rights to the land. So there is the allocation that must start with the county, processed by the National Land Commission, and registered in the ministry. That way we have a three system that checks each other. But when all of it is done under one roof, and in complete disregard of the owners of the land, which is the county government, and the managers as by law in the Constitution, National Land Commission, then we are committing an illegality.
Do you think, just finally, that the law can be strengthened to empower the National Land Commission?
It's already strong enough.
Is it? But then you're in court, and there are some instances in which you feel helpless as a commission.
I think why we are in court is just to find out, to get an interpretation of exactly what this is, because it is contested. As far as we are concerned, it is very clear. As far as a lot of lawyers are concerned, it's very clear. But that one side thinks that it is not as clear, and we want the Supreme Court to exactly do that. And that's where we are. And whatever they come up with, we will be happy with that. We will be comfortable.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your time and for shedding light on this issue. And we'll definitely continue to have you more as we talk about land issues in this country, which will definitely take quite some time to sort out. Thank you very much. Been speaking to Commissioner Abdul Kadir Halif from the National Land Commission, talking about matters land, which way to go. We of course wait that decision from the Supreme Court in terms of interpretation of the law to allow the National Land Commission to carry out its mandate completely. We'll take a look at your comments and your feedback on that in just a little while, but we want to take a short break. KTN Weekend Prime, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the point of news. Now, at least 2,000 youth in Mombasa County are set to be employed after the county government launched a fish farming project. During the launch, Governor Ali Hassan Joho said giving the youth employment opportunities is one of his government strategies in dealing with radicalization.
It will all start with the little fingerlings in these water tanks. Should all of the 1,000 of them be reared properly, a whole container would generate at least 500,000 shillings for the group of 10 youth assigned to this particular water tank, meaning 10 less idle youth, according to the Mombasa County government. And it's scenes such as these that the government is forging to get rid of recurrent police raids, battles, demonstrations, and even terror attacks, which have been attributed to radicalization, a result of youth unemployment. Governor Ali Hassan Joho, while unveiling the fish farming project, said that 180 water tanks had been distributed equally to all 30 wards, opening doors to over 2,000 youth in the county.
Vijana ila wakituona natuambia governor tunataka ajira. Mimi nataka niwaambie sisi tunataka nyinyi wenyewe mjiajiri. Kwa sababu matajiri walioko dunia hii wengi wao hawajawahi kuajiriwa.
But Joho was challenged by other local leaders to introduce laws to ensure that there would be ready market for the youth.
Ni lazima katika kila shelf either ya Nakumat, Naivas, Uchumi Supermarket ama mahali pengine popote wanapoweka bidhaa zao 20% ni lazima iwe ya local content, ambayo ni lazima vijana wetu waweze kuweka mali yao waweze kupata market.
The county government vowed to foster more projects in the fight against unemployment in the coastal region. Ian Wafula, KTN.
All right, from that, I want to just take a look at some of your feedback before we go into the sports news tonight. Lasirma says, ask him why people are playing golf on land meant for livestock research at vet labs. Muraguli Mwangi, you say, at least there's a true Kenyan still around like this commissioner. More of your feedback and your questions coming in. Paul Mwani, you say, most Kenyans do not have title deeds. What steps will he undertake to ensure that they have them, and how will they fight corruption? Ubuntu Africa, that's at Charles Opil, you say, we laughed off land issues that were raised at the 2013 presidential debate. Now it's fears for tears. Samson Odero says, that was a good interview. He is clear. The commissioner, that is, invite him to enlighten us more on matters land. We'll definitely make sure we do that some more. But it's now time for the sports news, and we have Moses Wahisi, who will be here in just a short while. All right, it's now time for our sports news, and Moses Wahis is in our sports studio tonight. Moses, it's good to be back together again.
Yeah,
haven't done this in a while.
It's been a while though, yeah. But it feels good to be back, and I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, good to have you back. I mean, David Rudisha is doing some great things. Hey, he's coming back, isn't he?
Yeah, Rudisha, you know, he was out for some time because of the injury, but actually today he won a medal in Australia, and I think this season is going to show that he's really a world champion. Yeah, but we're going to have that and much more in today's edition of Sports News. Now, we'll start on a rugby gear where Kenya Harlequins, Homeboys, Strathmore and Western Bulls qualified for the quarterfinals of the Enterprise Cup, and that's after winning their respective matches today. Quest defeated Kenya Cup losing finalist 39-30. Pan-African Strathmore Lions were 38-22 winners over Main Machine, while Homeboys rolled over Blackbird. Our very own Robinson Okenye now reports.
After finishing fourth in the 2014-2015 Kenya Cup season, Strathmore were presented with a chance to redeem themselves today as they took on Mean Machine in an all-varsity side Enterprise Cup tie. Leos were quick off their feet as they took a 5-0 lead. Leos continued to hover in Machine's half, and moments later Cyprian Ikuta made matters 10-0. Machine, however, showed they were not on holiday as Richard Alai replied with a converted try to keep them in the game. Machine's attack did not sit well with Micho Chola's boys as they made an extra 7 points to keep a firm grip on their lead. Strathmore demonstrated their prowess before the break as Humphrey Owuor and Collins Mugambi combined to add 14 points for a 31-7 halftime lead. Machine added 15 points in the second half but fell short as Strathmore crossed the line one more time and went for a 38-22 win. In other ties of the day, Western Bull bellowed loud as they crushed Mwamba 19-12 in Kakamega. Despite being level on 12 points at halftime, Bulls made 7 points in the second half to emerge victorious. Kenya Harlequins won 39-30 over Kabra Sugar at the RFUA grounds, while Homeboys thrashed Black Blood 45-5. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
To matters athletics. Two-time world 1500 meters champion Asbel Kiprop signaled his strong intentions to qualify for the second IAAF World Relay Championships that is set for Nassau, Bahamas between 2nd and 3rd May. An impressive Kiprop got off to his comfort zone and was actually able to win the 800 meters race in today's relay series at the Nyayo Stadium. Kiprop will seek gold in that race in Bahamas.
Asbel Kiprop was at his best as he fired warning shots to his rivals ahead of the Bahamas IAAF World Relays. Lining up with World Junior 800-meter champion Alfred Kipketer, Nicholas Kiplagat and former World Youth 400-meter silver medalist Jeremiah Mutai, Kiprop utilized his long strides and paced to clock an impressive 1 minute 44.4 seconds to register the best time of the day in the 2-lap race. Kipketer was second in 1 minute 45 seconds, the second best time over the distance in the competition. With 4x1500 meter off the list in the IAAF World Relay Championship set for Bahamas, Asbel Kiprop is set to star in the 4x800 meters.
I'm going to take part in the mid relays where it has the mile, the 1200, 800 and the 400. In that category I'm going to do I think part of the 800. Yeah, because the 800 guys are going to do the 4x8. I'm only one that I think could impose the 8 and 15.
This, however, does not mean Asbel Kiprop has shifted his running gear. His comfort zone still remains to be 1500 meters, and in this season he remains determined to defend his World Athletics Championship crown.
We have good athletes, especially from Kenya and also from Djibouti, and not forgetting American Central. He's a good athlete. He's got bronze in 2010 and silver in 2013, so he's coming up. But I'm not underrating anyone who's coming to the finals. I'm going to give my best.
In the women's 1500 meters front, newcomer Virginia Nyambura, who is under the tutelage of Milka Chemos and Alex Sang in Kapsabet, gave a masterclass performance winning that race.
Nataka Bahamas. Sasa ndo nikajiandaa. Bila nilisikia hii trials nikasema mpaka nikuje nijaribu. At least nione kama naweza.
The national trials for relay team is slotted for the 1st and 2nd April at Nyayo Stadium, with the Kenya team for the 2nd IAAF Relay Championship set for Bahamas will be selected.
Alright, and that does it for tonight's edition of KTN Weekend Prime. Thank you for watching The Point of News. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. We'll see you again tomorrow. Checkpoint. Interesting. Talking about graft. What can we do? Civil societies have given the government 7 days to sort out the issues or speak decisively and act decisively about corruption. What are they going to do once the 7 days elapse? We will be speaking to some of those who were at that press conference earlier this week tomorrow on Checkpoint. Do stay with us and have a good night. See you tomorrow.